Men's tennis is entering a new era and the numbers are absolutely insane. And you're probably thinking, what is this guy that normally talks about commercial real estate and business topics talking about tennis? Well, at the end of the video, I promise I'll explain exactly what this has to do with business. But first, let's talk about what's going on in the tennis world. Now, when I was growing up, tennis was dominated by Roger Federer. And then Rafael Nadal came along and started giving him competition and started beating him a lot of the time. And then Novak Djokovic came along and started beating both of those guys. And those guys the three of them dominated the sport for years. And what they did is, it's literally insane. From 2004 to 2023, Djokovic, Federer, and Nadal won 66 out of 79 major tournaments. That is 84% over a 2-decade period. They won all 4 majors in a calendar year 7 times. From 2005 until 2009, they won 18 in a row. 3 guys completely dominated the sport of men's tennis for 2 decades. Absolutely unbelievable. Now everything has changed, but not in the way you'd think. You'd think after an era of dominance like that came to an end, we would enter another era where a bunch of people win tournaments and it goes back and forth. Like women's tennis has been really all throughout this era since Venus and Serena Williams. Nobody since Venus and Serena has dominated the sport for an extended period of time. But we're not going back to a normal era in men's tennis. We're going back into another era of dominance, potentially an era of even more intense dominance, if that's even possible. The last 8 majors have been won by one of 2 men, Jannik Sinner or Carlos Alcaraz. These 2 guys took every single major in 2024 and 2025. Nobody else won a single major. Complete domination. But what I can't even wrap my mind around is the fact that Djokovic is still better than everyone else in the world by a long shot, except Sinner and Alcaraz. Since 2020, Djokovic has only lost 2 matches in a major tournament to players outside this group. At 38 years old, however, Djokovic can no longer hang with Sinner or Alcaraz. They're too good. And that tells you how far ahead Sinner and Alcaraz are from anybody else. But nobody besides Sinner and Alcaraz can beat Djokovic. So the difference between everyone besides Djokovic and Sinner and Alcaraz is just a massive. Unless Sinner or Alcaraz are injured or just have an absolute terrible fluke type day, nobody even has a chance. And they don't have fluke type days in majors. They show up and they dominate. And so you'll see them lose every now and again in a random tournament, but at least in the last 2 years, no one's been able to touch these guys. So Alcaraz reached 6 majors at age 22, and Sinner has 4 majors at age 24. Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic all won the final major of their career at age 36. And so there's 52 majors between now and when Jannik Sinner turns 37. If Sinner and Alcaraz split all those majors evenly, Sinner will finish his career with 30 majors, and Alcaraz will finish his career with 32 majors. But Alcaraz is younger than Sinner, and so if he keeps dominating through his 36th year of age, he will retire with 37 majors. For context, Pete Sampras set the record at 14 and no one was close to him. Federer came in and crushed Pete Sampras' record and won 20. Nadal then passed Federer with 22, and then Djokovic passed them all with 24. And that level of dominance felt unrepeatable, but here we are. Sinner and Alcaraz have a chance to pass those records with a big margin. They have to stay healthy, and they have to not have someone come out of nowhere and start beating them. But as of right now, doesn't seem likely. So what does this have to do with business? I promised I'd tell you, so here we go. It's very simple. When you reach an elite level, your competition gets much thinner. All the average, good, and even great players during the Federer, Nadal, Djokovic era, what happened to them? Well, they rarely won. Those guys, the big 3 won almost every major for 2 decades. They couldn't even give the guys a match. But the average, good, and great players would play each other. There was a lot of competition, but none of them could compete with the elite. Because those three became so elite, nobody could even touch them. They built a moat that lasted until their bodies gave out. And so there was a lot of competition among the big three, but the Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic really only competed with each other. Whereas the average, good, and great tennis players during that era, you probably don't even remember their names. There was too much competition. And so would you rather compete with one or two other elite competitors or compete with all the average, good, and great people out there? I don't know about you, but I would rather get to a point where my competition is much less, where I'm not competing with every average, good, and great company out there. What can we do to be different? What can we do to set us apart? And in tennis, your body is going to give out on you. Your peak performance ends in your early to mid 30s, and that's even up, when I was a kid, Sampras and Agassi and those guys, they retired a lot earlier. Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic, not only did they break all the records, but they also pushed the limit to how late in your career you can win majors. Winning majors at 36 was unheard of until these guys came along. But in business, in your 30s, your early mid 30s, you're just getting started. Your prime earning years don't start till you're 40. 40 to 60 years old are your prime earning years. And so if you can build a moat in business, if you can be elite in business, you've got decades ahead of you to where you can take the competitive advantage you've built by being elite, and you can achieve success and do things and keep doing more and more and more. But if you're average, good, or great in business, you're gonna be competing with everyone your whole career, and it's gonna be hard to get ahead. But if you reach that elite status, there is almost nobody left to compete with. And if there's one or two other competitors at that level, who cares? There's plenty of business to go around. You're only competing with one or two other people, where all the average, good, and great companies compete for the scraps of what's left after the elite players dominate. Now, being elite is tough. It takes dedication, it takes sacrifice, it takes focus, it takes relentlessness, and you have to be super intense and growing. But if you want that, it's not for everybody. But if you're ambitious, you should think, do you want to work somewhat hard and be good or great, or do you want to go the extra mile and be elite? Life is going to be hard for all of us, but we do, to a large extent, get to pick the hard we want. And so ask yourself, do you want your hard to be how much work it's going to take to get to an elite status in whatever it is you do? Or do you want your hard to be living in a world where you're always surrounded by more competition and it's very difficult to get ahead or find any edge that lasts, and you're always looking for the next deal, looking for the next client, and just kind of struggling through your career? So let me know what you think about being elite. Let me know what you think about the tennis business analogy, and please send this video to anyone that needs to see it. And please hit the subscribe button for more breakdowns on business, commercial real estate, entrepreneurship, always in plain English. Thank you.